within cities still that do that. You know, within how I operate, down in Peckham, just such an amazing array of different people hidden away in little workshops, just making things, and the knowledge that they have is just it's crazy. If you brought them all together, it's really amazing. But one thing we quite like to do is make our workshop slightly more open to, say, the general public, either, like I said, in terms of taking on commissions for smaller artifacts, or teaching and enabling people to come and make their own things. So you're not necessarily making a full tractor, but you might learn more basic DIY. You might learn how to fix things. You might learn just a bit more about materials and about how they can be, the potential of them. So what can be achieved just by doing things yourself. I know this is not about 3D printing, but we're not adverse to kind of modern technology and CNC and stuff like that, and we'd love to get more stuff like that to collaborate with the more traditional machines that we have. So we have kind of metal work lathes, drill presses, all the kind of standard timber lathes, panel saws. It's a fairly well kitted out. We've got MIG welding, TIG welding, roller bending machines, grinders, fly presses, all this kind of stuff. But what I'd love is to be able to mix that with more high-tech things. But currently, the price of these things, I know it's coming down, but just that collaboration is still slightly out of our reach. But what would be nice is to take people's interest and their passion in kind of, and the ease, the simplicity of CAD design, and how it's getting more and more open and more people are able to take it on. And yet, the heavier side of the machinery, so the metal working lathe and casting, is still fairly out of people's reach, and make it more connectable. So the way I do it is to have, the way I really see the potential in 3D printing is if you can combine it with other forms of manufacture, which is where it started. It wasn't always a small desktop thing. It started for, kind of high-tech niches where it would be done to then make a casting to do that. But I think if people realise the potential that what they could maybe make with 3D printer, they could just be a component of something else, and it could be more solid, and it could be more tactile and more precious. It could be combined with other materials and other crafts to make it sit in a kind of fully functioning, complete object, as opposed to I don't know, maybe it is or maybe it isn't, but a lot of the stuff that I see come out of 3D printers at the moment, it's just a kind of test of the machine. It's a test of what you can do as a standalone thing. But I think what would be nice is when that kind of dies down, that's when a lot of the interesting things come about. It's like, you just see it as a normal tool, just as a hammer, just as a thing, and you can just combine that with the next product. I don't think you can't be too young to learn how to do things. I was forever figuring out how to make stuff all day long, and I teach. I didn't teach this kid. I taught his brother how to weld, and he's 8, maybe 7 or 8. These are kids my old college tutor, and they just go absolutely mad for it because it's a bit dangerous, and it's bright and it's intense and it's fucking cool, basically. Just love it. But just to be able to be shown that or given that as an example, and that's the kind of thing that's going to stick with you. And then when you know that, you can look at something like everything I look at, I figure out how it's made, or what, the backs of these chairs are injection molded, or whatever. And as soon as you kind of know these things, you can look at every object and you can kind of pick up more understanding of what is all this stuff kind of around you. Same goes for not really being too old either. Obviously a lot of skills come with time, but then there's a lot of people out there who kind of have this big gap from education where you do design technology and you kind of learn these principles and stuff, and they forget it and they do different jobs and they don't have that in their life, and then a lot of people come back to it. I think, you know, that's amazing that people can, you know, even if they've been out of it, still feel that need to come and connect with hand making things. I basically make stuff every day. Like, there's not a day that goes past, and I love it. Like, I absolutely love it. This is me. Those chairs that I showed you at the beginning. So they're basically made out of ash and then carved back with an angle grinder. So I was doing that, dressed up like that for 4 days.
One solid piece?
No, it's not one solid piece. So you've got the seat base and the back. They're two separate, quite thick pieces.
Yeah.
And then the side, depending on which one, but basically the one down the back is one single piece, and then there's one that runs the front, and then the string, and then one down the front. So the side is made out of 4 pieces, back, base, and then a string at the bottom. But they're kind of made quite roughly, and then you carve them back with a grinder and a sander and a sander and a sander and a sander. So I think I think the intern started one morning where we walked in, handed a sander, just like 2 to 3 days of just doing this. But yeah, it's great. This is a couple of photos of our workshop at the moment. So you see you've got the office, and then we have, predominantly it's made up for carpentry and steelwork. However, we do other electronics, textiles. Like I said, we're looking to get more CNC equipment, casting, sand casting, kind of small plastics, model making and stuff. So it varies. Every project that we do, especially when we were just starting, every project would be kind of shortlisted to be like, right, this project we can get that, this project we can get that. Everything, it's just straight back in. It's just trying. It's like I'm probably list of machines is just never ending, especially with all the choice of CNC stuff. So we've got from the kitchen, bike, meeting room, and just tools and tools and tools and tools. I think. This is another project I want to talk about. This is a project we're doing with Daniel Charney and Fixworks and the RSM, which is next Wednesday, which is a workshop which is open to the public, so you're welcome to come on. And it's basically getting people involved with making a variety of different materials to write for a variety of different techniques. And it's something really simple, something that's pretty universal. It's just spoons, basically. So these are a bunch of different spoons that were designed for our little pitch that we did to them. This has got the little, which is the chopstick spoon. I don't know why that's not around already. That's it.
Thank you, Jamie. We've got Jamie and I have been talking about the learning stuff, and we are trying over the next couple of months to put together. We'll probably do one to start off with, see how it goes. But a day of making, so it'll be hands-on at JAILmake, getting to do stuff with the equipment and having an opportunity to use stuff that you just wouldn't get to use in other ways. So we'll be announcing details of that in the near future. But it's another thing that we're wanting to do with Maker Skills and partners, and JAILmake are kindly saying they're interested in doing that. It fits perfectly with what you want to do anyway, I guess. So we'll be sending messages out to the group about that when we sorted out dates. There'll probably have to be a small charge for it, but in the chat time we'd really welcome thoughts, comments, how that would work. Should we probably do a full Saturday? And probably 40-50 quid each, something like that?
I guess it kind of depends what wants to happen.
Yeah.
But around-ish.
Yeah. So we'll talk more about that. Should we go on to Greg, and then we'll have...
Should we do questions? Is that easier to do?
Well, I was wondering if we should do them at the end. But whatever people prefer. Questions now?
Quick one. The angle grinder in the wood. What did you actually use to?
What?
You mentioned sanding this.
What blade? Or kind of what?
What kind of
Yeah.
thing?
Well, you can get these. Well, I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically a metal disc with embedded tungsten carbide, three blades within them.
Okay.
Absolutely useless. Shatters the whole thing. Says it's indestructible and you do like all the hard ones and green ones and absolute crap. Basically a lot of the shaping was done kind of roughly, so with spoke shaves, axe, like little carpenter's axe, and then just a 40 grit flat disc again and again. The thing is they kind of burn out and the timber burns and it kind of goes a bit sticky and it clogs it all up, so you get through piles of and really expensive as well. So, yeah. But that's basically what it was. That takes the rough shape, finer flat disc, further and further, and then just a palm sander, round ball tool sander, just again and again and again and again.
Just wonder if you've got an ads.
You should invent some new tools. It's a missing thing you need.
Well, someone tried, but I tried it and I thought it was pretty useful.
But ads is sometimes men eagle things, you know.
The kind of long, straight.
Long thing with a thing that you can just chop.
It's a mattock, isn't it? Isn't that mattock?
Manners can be mad. Some people over here.
Just, it's fantastic what you're doing. What do you do for funding? How do you fund it?
What do I do for funding? Well, we started 3 years ago, and we basically started in a garage, which we managed to get rent-free. And we paid, well, actually, no, not rent-free, because things like £200 a month or something. But we had no electricity bills, nothing like that. So we started off by getting projects through other design studios that we knew, things like that. So that's where all funding comes from projects. There's been no additional funding, there's been there's been private funding, but that's all kind of come back. There's been no other sponsor or investor. It's literally the first project paid for the next month to get the second one, to get the third, to get the fourth. And now, the first project I think I did, the budget was 3,000, and I wouldn't quote anything less than 10,000 for it these days. And now I'm working on a £250,000 interior project in just off Old Street. So it's all just been hard work plus volunteers.
And the teaching side of it, is that something that you just do?
That's just something I do for interns or friends or it's like the kids were just my tutors. We had them down for I spend a lot of time in this workshop and it's a pretty kind of homely environment. There's a pizza oven that we made. There's this kind of big kitchen, there's a big dining table. So that's all part of the attitude of what we do, is that it should be a kind of a natural, but I spend a lot of time there and I basically just put in the hours. It's simple as that.
Do you pitch for these things when you get, or do they kind of just cut it away because people know?
Luckily, these days, a lot of it just comes our way. Yeah. I mean, at the beginning it was pitches, and we will do more pitches, and we do competitions. And in the past 6 months, I haven't done a single competition or pitch. But yeah, I mean, my obviously, it's like the same with lots of this, but my list of quotes is 20 times as long as my list of invoices. Over to you. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim. We'll have more general discussion after and networking, and then we'll go to the pub down the road for a beer. Continue chats.
Thanks again for inviting me. So I'll try and make some commentary during this talk about the title of tonight's event, which was not 3D printing, while I'm talking about a CNC technology that does relate to 3D printing in some ways. So yeah, my name is Gregory Epps, I'm the founder of Robofold. So I'll give you a little history of how Robofold came about, some of the clients that we've worked with, kind of brief introduction, a video of how this technology operates, and show you some of the types of things that we make with this technology. And I'll try and give you a bit more detail of actually how you can sort of engage with this technology and engage with the design process as part of this technology. And at the end, you can kind of see where that technology has led us into other areas as well. Okay, so we started off, well, actually I started developing this like way before we got some investment. When I was kind of about 16, I was folding up bits of metal and making sculptures, and realised that if you bend a piece of metal, it stops being all kind of bendy and gets quite strong suddenly. This piece of bendy metal is now quite strong. So if you, in addition, you kind of do that bit, you can get a nice shape, and it's strong as well. So you get this kind of interesting way of creating form. And at the time I was also building a mountain bike with a sort of suspension system in it. So I thought, well, like instead of moulding a frame, I had a tubular frame which was a bit rusty. I wanted to sort of mould it into a monocoque frame. So instead of doing that, I thought, well, why don't I take this sculpture I'm building and try and actually make a bicycle frame from it? And I thought, well, if I'm going to ride this bike downhill, I don't want to be folding up little bits of metal by hand, and perhaps I better invent an industrial process. And that was sort of the spark of the idea, really, like, okay, now I'm going to have to invent an industrial process to make this bike. So that's been the last 17 years of my life, pretty much. And about 5 years ago, I got some funding to take us a bit further. So from the Royal College of Art and Imperial College, and we got some grants as well. And we've done products, prototypes, proposals for some really great clients. We've done a lot of teaching as well. So going around the world showing people how to fold bits of paper, fold bits of metal, which has been fun. And this is kind of how the process works. It's very simple. You saw me folding a piece of paper. That's where everything starts. And really you can translate that directly into a sheet metal creation. So this is the robots forming that sheet. So that makes it look really simple. We've got lots of clever software in the background. So in a way, the challenge really of this technology is, well, turning it from being something that is a handcraft into being a technology. So that is embedding craft within software. So all those parameters of the robotics, the metal, the curvature, the thickness, the spring back, we're trying to understand that and find ways to represent that in software. And if we can do that, then, for instance, with that panel you just saw from that project, then we can take advantage of the CNC technologies, which we don't have tooling. So conventional sheet metal forming, you need to first make a tool, which is a big male and female mould, which is how big it is for however big panel, which costs tens of thousands of pounds. But it's great, because it lets you make the same piece 100,000 times, let's say. But it's not great if you want to make something different. And that panel that you just saw came from a series of self-simmer panels, which are there are 488, and they're all different. So they start from being this long and this wide to being this wide and this long, and they're all formed of the same parameters that describe them. But we're not constrained by having a tooling to make them, so all of that information is not held in blocks of metal, it's held in the computer. So we're quite free with how we use that. So I guess as a sort of introduction